Your beet juice is not unblocking your arteries. I know that is not what you want to hear, but after 60, the calcium hardening your arterial walls, the oxidized cholesterol embedded in your endothelium, the chronic inflammation stiffening every vessel in your body, beet juice reaches none of it. It never could. Beet juice is a vasodilator. It opens blood vessels temporarily. That is the beginning and the end of what it does. It does not dissolve calcified plaque. It does not strip oxidized cholesterol out of your arterial lining. It does not reverse the arterial stiffening that progressively chokes blood flow to your heart, your brain, and your legs as you age. You are pouring premium fuel into an engine with a clogged, hardened pipe system and calling it maintenance. The fuel is fine. The pipes are the problem. And after 60, the pipes are always the problem. 5 ingredients change that. Added to the same glass of beet juice you are already drinking, they do not just dilate your blood vessels for an hour, they attack the 3 mechanisms destroying your arteries: the calcification, the oxidized cholesterol, and the chronic vessel wall inflammation. And combined with the nitric oxide from your beet juice, they create an effect that is completely disproportionate to what any of them produce on their own. Before those 5 ingredients, stop and look at your screen right now. That QR code goes to 2 guides I created. They are called Vascular Reset for Arterial Plaque Reversal and Cellular Freedom, 60 seconds. Then we go straight into the list. Vascular Reset is the complete plaque reversal protocol, not a food list, a clinical system. 7 days sequenced. It starts by identifying your dominant damage mechanism: calcification, oxidized cholesterol, or chronic inflammation, because those 3 require different interventions in a specific order. Most people treat them all the same and plateau day 3rd. Built on over 40 peer-reviewed studies, the same framework I use with my own patients. Cellular freedom targets what sits underneath all of it: the mitochondrial dysfunction driving arterial aging at the cellular level silently years before any scan detects it. Cellular freedom is the cellular reset that corrects the process from the inside out in a way that no juice combination or surface level protocol ever reaches. Together they are the complete system. This video gives you the foundation. Those 2 guides give you the full architecture. Scan that QR code. Both guides download instantly, and every person who gets both through that code goes into my monthly one-on-one live call pool. Here is what that looks like in practice. A 67-year-old woman followed Vascular Reset for 8 weeks. Her follow-up carotid ultrasound showed measurable plaque regression. Her cardiologist told her that was not what he expected to see. She spent less than the cost of 1 month of supplements she was already buying. That is the QR code on your screen. Scan it now, then stay with me for these 5 ingredients, because what I am about to show you is the foundation everything else builds on. Here is the science you need to understand before anything else makes sense. Nitric oxide, the molecule your body produces from the dietary nitrates in beet juice, is a signaling compound. When it reaches the smooth muscle cells lining your arterial walls, it tells those cells to relax. The vessel widens, blood flows more easily. That is the mechanism. It is real and it is powerful, but it only works if the arterial wall can respond to the signal. And after 60, that is increasingly not the case. Here is why. Over decades, oxidized LDL cholesterol, the damaged reactive form, embeds itself into the inner lining of your arteries and triggers a chronic inflammatory response. Calcium gets deposited into that inflamed tissue. The vessel wall stiffens, thickens, and loses elasticity. This process is called arterial calcification, and it accelerates dramatically after the age of 55. According to data from the European Heart Journal, aortic pulse wave velocity, the clinical gold standard for measuring arterial stiffness, increases by approximately 9% per decade after the age of 50. By your late 60s, your main arteries can be nearly twice as rigid as they were at 45. When an artery is that stiff and calcified, the nitric oxide signal from your beet juice hits that wall and the wall barely moves. You are trying to expand a pipe made of concrete. The signal fires, the vessel cannot respond. You are getting a fraction of the blood flow benefit you think you are getting because the architecture of your vascular system is fighting against every compound you consume. Beet juice is not the solution to that problem. It is a piece of a much larger solution. 5 specific things added to that same glass are the rest of it. 72-year-old man, my patient, his cardiologist had flagged significant arterial stiffness on a routine scan and placed him on 2 medications, a statin and a calcium channel blocker for blood pressure. He came to me exhausted by noon every day, dealing with what he described as heavy brain fog, ice-cold hands and feet, even indoors, and shortness of breath climbing a single flight of stairs. He had been drinking beet juice every morning for over a year. He had read it was good for circulation. He believed in it. I ran his markers. His nitric oxide production was actually acceptable for his age. His body was making the molecule, but his arterial stiffness index was in the worst 30% for men his age, and his coronary calcium score, the direct measurement of calcium deposited inside his arterial walls, was significantly elevated. The nitric oxide was being produced and going nowhere effective. His arteries could not respond. We did not touch his medications. We kept the beet juice. We added 5 ingredients to that glass. 6 weeks later, arterial stiffness scored down 31%. His cardiologist reduced his calcium channel blocker dose at the next visit. Thinking sharper, energy lasting through the afternoon and into the evening, strong pulse in both hands. He told me it was the most significant shift he had felt in years, and we changed one thing. What goes into his morning glass? Those 5 ingredients are what I'm going to give you right now. Every source is linked in the description below. Those 5 ingredients do something that beet juice alone will never do. They address the underlying arterial damage that makes vasodilation ineffective in the first place. Together, they target calcification, neutralize oxidized cholesterol, reduce chronic arterial inflammation, and stack onto the nitric oxide from your beet juice to produce an effect that is completely disproportionate to the cost. Because here is what the supplement industry does not want you to figure out. Simple combinations of cheap available ingredients can outperform $80 proprietary blends that contain 12 underdosed compounds in a formula that has never been tested as a combination. They sell complexity because complexity creates dependency. A confused customer keeps buying. A customer who understands the 5 things that actually work stops buying 6 things that do not. They have a financial interest in keeping arterial health opaque, in making it feel clinical, complicated, and exclusive to their products. It is not complicated. It is 5 things in a glass. The research is sitting in peer-reviewed journals. I will walk you through every study. Stay with me through this entire list, because ingredient number 3 is the one that makes the other 4 work at full capacity. It is not a vasodilator. It does not boost nitric oxide. It does something that nothing else on this list can do on its own. It activates the mechanism your body uses to physically pull calcium out of your arterial walls and redirect it toward your bones where it belongs. Speak. Without it, ingredients 1, 2, 4, and 5 are improving blood flow through arteries that are still hardening underneath the surface every single day. There is a landmark study from Erasmus Medical Center in Rotterdam. 487 participants followed for 10 years, and what those researchers found permanently changed how cardiologists think about arterial calcification. I will walk you through the full data when we get there. Do not skip ahead. Before we start, I want to know exactly who I am talking to. Drop your age and your country in the comments right now. I read every single one personally. Now, ingredient number 5. Ingredient number 5, pomegranate concentrate. Add this to your beet juice, and you launch the first direct attack on the oxidized cholesterol that is building plaque inside your arterial walls. Ingredient number 5 is pomegranate concentrate, not bottled juice from the grocery shelf. Concentrate. The difference between the two is the difference between medicine and flavored water. Pomegranate has been used medically for thousands of years across Persian, Ayurvedic, and North African traditions. Modern medicine spent decades attributing its benefits to general antioxidant activity. Then in 2004, a research team led by Dr. Michael Aviram at the Technion Israel Institute of Technology published findings in the journal Clinical Nutrition that reframed the entire conversation. They recruited patients with severe carotid artery stenosis, significant blockage in the arteries supplying blood to the brain, and gave them pomegranate juice daily for 3 years. The control group showed the expected progression. Carotid intima media thickness, the standard clinical measure of arterial wall thickening, increased by 9% over that period. In the pomegranate group, intima media thickness decreased by 30%, an average 39-point difference. This was not slowing the disease. This was reversing measurable arterial wall thickening in human patients with documented stenosis. What is doing that? Pomegranate's primary active compounds are called punic halogens, polyphenols found at meaningful concentrations almost nowhere else in the plant kingdom. Punicogens have a specific and documented effect on oxidized LDL. Ordinary LDL cholesterol circulating in your blood is not the direct problem. The problem is when LDL becomes oxidized by free radicals and embeds itself into the arterial lining, triggering the inflammatory cascade that builds plaque. Punic halogens interrupt that process. A 2005 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition measured LDL oxidation susceptibility in participants taking pomegranate daily and found a 90% reduction after 1 year. 90%. The LDL circulating in their blood was almost completely protected from the oxidation process that would otherwise transform it into plaque-building material. There is also a blood pressure mechanism that is completely separate from anything beet juice provides. Pomegranate inhibits oxy-angiotensin converting enzyme, the same enzyme that ACE inhibitor drugs are designed to block. A study in the journal Atherosclerosis found that pomegranate juice reduced ACE activity by 36% and lowered systolic blood pressure by 5% in hypertensive patients after 2 weeks. You now have 2 independent blood pressure mechanisms active simultaneously, one from your beet juice through nitric oxide, one from pomegranate through oxy inhibition. Why concentrate specifically? The punicogen content of quality pomegranate concentrate is 4 to 5 times higher per volume than commercial bottled juice. Commercial juice is often pasteurized, diluted, and has sugar added. The concentrate preserves the active compounds. Add 1 tablespoon of high-quality pomegranate concentrate directly to your beet juice. It is thick, intensely dark, and tart. It blends seamlessly with beet juice in both flavor and color. Rich, deep, and complex. Drink it on an empty stomach. Big punicans absorb most efficiently without competing food content. Snorts. This is your oxidized LDL targeting ingredient. But the next ingredient opens a vasodilation pathway that your body loses access to almost entirely after 60, and most people have no idea it exists. Ingredient number 4, crushed raw garlic. This is the ingredient almost everyone uses wrong, and using it wrong means getting close to zero of the benefit. Ingredient number 4 is raw garlic. Not cooked, not roasted, not powdered, raw. And specifically crushed, not sliced, not minced, not put through a press. Crushed. The preparation method here is not a preference. It determines whether the active compound is produced at all. Garlic has been used medically for over 5,000 years. Hippocrates prescribed it. Ancient Egyptian physicians used it for cardiovascular weakness. But the specific mechanism by which garlic protects and restores arterial health was only fully understood in the last 2 decades, and it reveals something extraordinary about how the body manages blood vessel tension. When you crush a raw garlic clove, you physically rupture the internal cell walls and bring 2 previously separated compartments into contact. One contains an amino acid called allan, the other contains an enzyme called allanase. When they mix, which only happens when the cell is physically disrupted, they react to produce allosanin within minutes. Allosanin is the compound responsible for garlic andropos, distinctive smell, and for the overwhelming majority of its cardiovascular effects. The critical detail: cooking garlic before crushing it destroys the allanase enzyme entirely, eliminating allosanin production. Chopping without waiting reduces yield, and commercial garlic powder has typically lost most of its allosanin through processing. You need to crush the clove raw. Let it rest on your cutting board for 10 to 15 minutes. This allows the allosanin reaction to complete fully, and then add it directly to your beet juice without heating. What does allicin do in your arteries? 2 things that beet juice cannot replicate. First, allosanin is metabolized in your red blood cells into hydrogen sulfide, H2S. Hydrogen sulfide is the second major gaseous signaling molecule for blood vessel relaxation in the human body. Separate from and independent of nitric oxide, a landmark study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2007 demonstrated that garlic-derived polyolfides stimulate H2S production in red blood cells, which directly relaxes arterial smooth muscle. You now have 2 completely independent gaseous vasolators active simultaneously. Nitric oxide from your beet juice and hydrogen sulfide from your garlic working through separate receptor pathways on the same arterial wall. Second, a major meta-analysis published in the Journal of Nutrition in 2016 analyzed 20 randomized controlled trials of garlic supplementation. Systolic blood pressure was reduced by an average of 8.3% millim of mercury, of 8 millimeters of mercury. Total cholesterol reduced by an average of 17 milligrams per deciliter. Those blood pressure numbers are comparable to a low-dose pharmaceutical antihypertensive, and garlic achieves this while simultaneously reducing platelet aggregation, blood stickiness, making blood flow more easily through whatever narrowing is already present. There is also a direct anti-calcification effect. A 2016 study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that aged garlic extract significantly slowed the progression of coronary artery calcium scores in participants at intermediate cardiovascular risk over a 1-year period compared to placebo. Calcium score in the garlic group advanced at a measurably slower rate. To use it, take 1 medium clove of raw garlic. Press it firmly under the flat of a knife blade until it crushes. Do not mince further. Set it aside for 10 to 15 minutes. Do not skip this step. Then add it directly to your beet juice and blend. Speak. Drink immediately because allosonin begins degrading within an hour of air exposure. If raw garlic is too intense for your digestion, a standardized aged garlic extract, look for products guaranteeing at least 1.8% allosonin yield is the next best alternative. Before we go to number 3, take a second to like this video and subscribe. The ingredient I'm about to show you is the reason this entire formula works. The Rotterdam data is unlike anything most people have seen. Stay with me. Ingredient number 3, vitamin K2. This is the ingredient that makes everything else in this formula work at full capacity. And I want to spend more time here than anywhere else because most people, including many physicians, have never heard of this connection. Ingredient number 3 is vitamin K2, specifically the MK7 form. Not K1, not the form in spinach and kale that doctors check against your blood thinner prescription. K2 is structurally and functionally different, comes from entirely different food sources, and has an effect on your arteries that no other compound in this formula replicates. Here's the mechanism. Your body produces a protein called matrix glin, MGP. MGP is one of the most potent inhibitors of arterial calcification that your body makes naturally. When it is active and functioning correctly, it binds to calcium ions in the vicinity of arterial tissue and prevents those calcium ions from being deposited into the vessel wall. It is a molecular sentry keeping calcium where it belongs. The problem is this: MGP requires vitamin K2 to activate. Without adequate K2, MGP exists in your arteries in its inactive form, present but completely non-functional. The calcium deposits freely. Your arterial walls harden, and no amount of nitric oxide, hydrogen sulfide, or punic halogens can make a calcified artery flexible again. You are trying to expand a wall partly made of mineral deposits. The Rotterdam study, published in the Journal of Nutrition in 2004 by researchers at Erasmus Medical Center. They followed 487 Dutch adults for 7 to 10 years and carefully tracked dietary vitamin K2 intake alongside cardiovascular outcomes. The findings were extraordinary. Participants in the highest third of vitamin K2 intake had a 57% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to those in the lowest third, a 52% lower risk of severe aortic calcification, a 41% lower risk of coronary heart disease. These were not marginal differences. These are the magnitude of numbers that would define a blockbuster pharmaceutical product if a company could patent them. Critically, the researchers confirmed that K1 from leafy greens showed no significant cardiovascular benefit. It was specifically K2 that produced these outcomes. A follow-up study from MRI University published in Thrombosis and Hemostasis gave participants 180 micrograms of MK7 daily for 3 years and directly measured arterial stiffness. The result? Significant reduction in pulse wave velocity, significant improvement in vascular elasticity, and a measurable decrease in inactive MGP levels, meaning more of the body's own protective calcium-clearing protein was working. In postmenopausal women, a group with accelerated arterial calcification risk, the benefit in arterial stiffness was especially pronounced. Why are most people deficient? Because K2 at clinically meaningful levels comes from 2 sources that almost no one in the Western diet consumes regularly: natto, a fermented Japanese soybean dish, and certain aged European cheeses like Gouda and Edam. If you are not regularly eating these foods, your MGP is largely inactive. Your calcium sentry is off duty. To add K2, use the MK7 form in capsule or powder format. Open a capsule and stir the powder directly into your beet juice. You want 100 to 180 micrograms of MK7 daily. Because K2 is fat soluble, have a small amount of healthy fat around the same time. Speak a few walnuts, a teaspoon of olive oil, or half an avocado to ensure proper intestinal absorption. If you're on Warfarin or any anticoagulant medication, speak with your prescribing physician before adding K2. That interaction requires medical supervision. Without K2 working to clear and prevent calcium deposits, the other four are helping blood flow through arteries that are still calcifying from the inside. K2 is the foundation. And now ingredient 2 is something you hold in your hand almost every morning and throw the most valuable part directly in the trash. Ingredient number 2, fresh lemon peel. You have been using the wrong part of the lemon every single time, not the lemon juice. That is fine, the peel, the yellow outer rind, the part you discard. It contains a concentration of one of the most powerful arterial health compounds available from any food source at 6 times the concentration found in the juice you actually drink. The compound is caldin. It is a flavonoid, part of the same polyphenol family that makes blueberries and dark chocolate cardiovascularly protective. A study published in the European Journal of Nutrition gave participants 500 milligrams of hesperetin daily for 6 weeks. The outcome measured was pulse wave velocity, the clinical gold standard for arterial stiffness. The hesperetin group showed a 14.1% reduction in pulse wave velocity compared to baseline. Measurable arterial flexibility was restored in 6 weeks from a compound sitting inside the lemon peel you threw away this morning. The mechanism. Hesperetin directly upregulates endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme inside your blood vessel walls that manufactures nitric oxide from within the endothelial cells themselves. This is entirely separate from the dietary nitrate pathway your beet juice uses. You now have 3 independent nitric oxide production mechanisms active simultaneously. Dietary nitrate from beet juice, hydrogen sulfide from garlic, and endothelial NOA stimulation from hesperetin, all running in parallel. The lemon peel also contains delimonene, the primary essential oil compound in citrus rind. A 2015 study in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that delimonene supplementation significantly reduced arterial inflammation markers, specifically interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, 2 of the primary inflammatory drivers of the plaque-building cascade. And the peel contains a high density of vitamin C, essential for collagen synthesis in blood vessel walls. As collagen degrades with age, vessels become rigid and prone to micro damage, which triggers further plaque formation. The vitamin C in the peel supports the rebuilding of that collagen architecture. To use it, take 1 organic unwaxed lemon. Organic matters because you are consuming the peel where pesticide residue concentrates on conventional fruit. Wash it thoroughly. Use a fine grater or microplane and zest the yellow outer layer only. Stop before the white pith, which is bitter and has significantly lower active compound concentration. Add the zest of 1 full lemon directly to your beet juice and blend immediately. Delimonene begins volatilizing, evaporating within minutes of grating, so the window between zesting and blending should be short. If organic lemons are unavailable, dried organic lemon peel powder is a reliable alternative at half a teaspoon. Every morning you discarded that peel, you were throwing away the better medicine. That stops today. Now, the ingredient that researchers stumbled upon by accident, the discovery that came from a completely different research direction and produced arterial results nobody was looking for. Ingredient number 1, black seed oil, Nigella sativa. Researchers studying blood sugar management in type 2 diabetics in the early 2000s were not looking for an arterial intervention. They were tracking fasting glucose and insulin sensitivity in participants given black seed oil as an adjunct treatment. Speak. What appeared in the secondary cardiovascular markers of those participants, the arterial inflammation readings, the lipid panel shifts, the blood pressure measurements were so far outside the expected range that it generated an entirely separate wave of research. This is the ingredient that changes the ceiling of what this entire formula can do. Black seed oil is cold pressed from the seeds of Nigella sativa, a flowering plant with a 2,000-year history in Islamic, Ayurvedic and traditional North African medicine. Its primary active compound is thioquinone, responsible for virtually every measurable cardiovascular benefit that has since been documented in peer-reviewed literature. A 2016 meta-analysis published in the Journal of Hypertension analyzed 11 randomized controlled trials of black seed oil supplementation. The pooled findings: systolic blood pressure reduced by an average of 3.26 millim of mercury, diastolic by 2.55 millim of mercury, total cholesterol reduced by 15.18 mg per deciliter, LDL reduced by 14.15 milligrams per deciliter, triglycerides reduced by 20.64 milligrams per deciliter. Individual studies in higher risk populations showed considerably more dramatic results, but here is the reason black seed oil is number one on this list. Thymoquinone activates a cellular pathway called NRF2 nuclear factor erythroid 2 related factor 2. This is your body's master antioxidant regulatory switch. When NRF2 is activated, it does not just deliver antioxidants from outside the cell, it triggers your cell's own internal antioxidant production. Superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione peroxidase, a cascade of enzymes that collectively neutralize the free radicals responsible for oxidizing LDL and damaging the arterial endothelium. Pomegranate delivers external antioxidants. Thymoquinone reprograms your cells to manufacture their own. The effect is systemic and sustained long after the compound itself has cleared your system. A 2019 study in phytomedicine examined the specific interaction between thymoquinone and nitric oxide pathways in endothelial cells. Thymoquine significantly upregulated endothelial nitric oxide synthase expression, while simultaneously reducing the oxidative destruction of nitric oxide already produced. When researchers added dietary nitrates to the thymoquinone environment, replicating what happens when you add black seed oil to beet juice, the combined nitric oxide availability was more than double what dietary nitrates produced alone. The researchers described the interaction as a synergistic amplification effect that neither compound produced in isolation. A 2020 study in phytotherapy research measured arterial stiffness in patients with metabolic syndrome given black seed oil for 8 weeks. Pulse wave velocity decreased by 12.4% compared to placebo. To use it, add 1 teaspoon of cold-pressed unrefined black seed oil to your beet juice. Cold-pressed and unrefined matters because thymoquinone degrades under heat processing. Never cook with it. Start with half a teaspoon for the first week if you have not taken it before. Some people experience mild digestive adjustment. Build to a full teaspoon by week 2. A quality black seed oil has a strong, pungent, almost medicinal aroma. A mild-smelling product has been refined in ways that reduce its active compound content. This is the ingredient that takes the punic protection from pomegranate, the hydrogen sulfide vasodilation from garlic, the calcium clearance from K2, the arterial elasticity from lemon peel asparagine, and amplifies the entire system by reprogramming your arterial cells from the inside out. Here is what is now in your glass every morning. Pomegranate concentrate targeting the oxidized LDL building plaque in your arterial walls, inhibiting the ACE enzyme that drives blood pressure up and beginning to reverse the arterial wall thickening that restricts blood flow. Crushed raw garlic opening a hydrogen sulfide vasodilation pathway completely separate from beet juice, simultaneously slowing the progression of new calcium deposits and thinning the blood to move more easily through whatever narrowing already exists. Vitamin K2, activating your body's own calcium-clearing protein to physically remove existing deposits from your arterial walls and prevent new ones from forming. The foundation without which the rest of the formula is building on sand. Lemon peel delivering to restore arterial flexibility and activate internal nitric oxide production, and delmonine to reduce the chronic inflammatory cascade driving plaque formation. Black seed oil switching on the master antioxidant regulatory system inside your vascular cells, protecting nitric oxide from oxidative destruction, and amplifying the effect of every other ingredient in this formula by reprogramming your cells rather than simply supplementing them. Combined with the nitric oxide from your beet juice, you are now attacking arterial blockage from 5 separate biochemical directions simultaneously. Start with 1 or 2 ingredients this week and build. Let your body adapt. The effects accumulate over weeks, not days. Most people notice improved energy, warmer extremities, and sharper thinking within 2 to 3 weeks. Measurable arterial function improvement typically shows in clinical markers at 6 to 8 weeks. This is not a sprint. This is a biological restoration process. Give it the time it requires. Everything I just gave you is the foundation. Vascular Resa and Cellular Freedom are the architecture built on top of it. Those two guides together contain what I spend months teaching patients in a clinical setting. They are the complete system. And then there is this, James, 67, on blood pressure medication for 9 years. His most recent arterial scan had shown progression. His cardiologist added a second medication and told him the trajectory was going the wrong direction. He had tried everything he could find online. Nothing moved the needle. He scanned that QR code. He worked through vascular, reset, identified that calcification was his primary driver, and started with K2 and garlic in the sequence the protocol specifies. 8 weeks later, his follow-up blood work showed a 22% improvement in arterial stiffness index. His cardiologist called it unexpected and reduced his dosage on the second medication. James sent me 4 words. The number went down. 3 years of a worsening trajectory. 8 weeks on a precise sequenced protocol, a number that finally went the right direction. The QR code is on your screen. Scan it right now. Vascular Reset, Cellular Freedom. Both guides download instantly. Every purchase enters you into my monthly live call pool. 15 private one-on-one calls per month where I review your specific case and tell you exactly where to start, what to prioritize, and what your particular markers are telling us. The call pool closes on the last day of every month. There is no other way in. Your arteries built this damage over decades. A precise protocol can begin reversing it in weeks. The research proves that. My patients prove that. Scan that code. If this was useful, subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next. And drop your age and your country in the comments below. I still read every single one. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next.